So it will be lonely. You know what is the cure for that loneliness? You won't believe me. Silence. Solitude. Somehow, when you are alone, you feel so happy. Is that escape? No. That is why I said, as you value silence, and as you see the need for solitude, and I see more and more OCDS coming here just for a time for quiet, naku po, you're beginning to understand what it means. Tahimik lang. Di ba great joys like great sorrows are silent? When you're very happy, hindi mo ba, you're just quiet. So happy. Now when you're also very lonely, quiet. It's lonely, but you are not alone. Silence begins to be your refuge. Pwede na. Ang sarap ng silence. It's not because you're antisocial. There you find more rest. The cure is solitude. It's a different level of solidarity. Somehow, in the silence, you find a different type of productivity. Just quiet. Now, here then, as we grow into the second half, we begin to develop a happy, needed introversion. You know what? Do you notice how, as we grow older, we would like more mellow songs? As we grow older, we would prefer under-stimulation. Because we have a culture that is overstimulated. There has to be music, there has to be this, there has to be that. We have to all dance together, we have to have dynamics, and we have to have group whatever. Now, as we grow in the mystical life, you develop a happy introversion. And that's what you begin to see, even in the most extroverted people. As they grow, at home na sila mag-isa. Okay lang. No problem. It's a happy thing. It's not an escape. So, here you begin to see, in the first half of life, you are writing the text. In the second half of life, you are writing the commentary to the text. You see the beautiful differences, no? Now here, hopefully, as you read the mansions, the fourth, as we go through the fourth, you will see very beautiful images of the second half used by Saint Teresa. So, when we look then at this, let's end with this part. There is so much to unpack. So much to unpack that all life has given you. God has been so good to you, you have to unpack it all before it is taken away from you by God. You want to look at it again. So, very rich on experiences. Happiness and sorrow, joys, ups and heights and lows. You need to unpack it. And that's what you do in silence. Dahan-dahan, nilalabas mo sa maleta. And then before God takes it. So here, you remember, older people do not usually choose loud music. Older people do not usually choose large crowds. They move to understimulation. Because as we go, we need to integrate, we need to digest what has come. Now, here we begin to see, in your silence, what do you discover? Ay nako, everything belongs. As you look back, ang ganda ng view, ang laki ng picture, ang lawak ng horizon. That is the simplicity of the mystic. Remember, mysticism is seeing connections. You see connections. You see that everything belongs. And here, you value silence, as I said, because it begins to be a language which makes you see connection. Now, here you begin to see also that Saint Teresa begins to speak to you more. When you read the text, naku, makikita mo sarili mo. When you read the text, the words jump out of the page. When you read the text, she is speaking to me. This also. So, I'd like to close here before we go to the afternoon session. Any questions so far? Before you break for lunch and have a break before 2:30. Anything that comes up, related or unrelated. Fourth mansions, it is how our saints see the integration of the psyche and the spirit. It sounds fancy, but it's simple. Because, as I said, as you go up, it becomes so simple. Now, because you will understand ano ang Carmelite way ng integration. Why do I mention this? Because we are familiar with so many psychological processes. Hindi po ba? By reparenting the child within, for example. May mga processes about Myers-Briggs, may Enneagram, may this, may that, and so many things. There are about 250 now approaches to psycho-spiritual life, to psychodynamics. Now, let me end with this. In the Carmelite mystics, San Juan de la Cruz, Santa Teresa de Jesus, Santa Teresita, dalawang pong emphasis nila on the present and the conscious. Not the past, not the subconscious. Kaya nga, kutkot ka ng kutkot sa nangyari can be dangerous, according to the saints. Because there are some processes na you keep on digging and digging and digging, and you end up living in the past your whole life. I'll explain that because ang approach mo nila, you approach healing through the conscious. Kaya nga, you have to know the shadow so that it becomes conscious. Once you face your shadow and accept it, it no longer becomes a shadow. It becomes conscious. When it becomes conscious, ayun na, nasa harap mo na. When you accept it, it becomes conscious. Now grace acts. Kaya nga, bitawan mo ang prayer, bitawan mo ang sinasabi nating self-awareness, how can the process continue? So, emphasis mo nila, look at the present and look at the conscious. And you will say, paano na yung past pa din? Okay lang. Factor the past to help you understand the present. But please, do not stay on the past. Because some processes, look back. When you were in the womb, and I was rejected, whatever that is. And then, when I was like this, when I was like that, naku, hindi na makalabas kasi napupunan ng nanay niya. The whole life, always in the womb, never born, still born sometimes. That's the tragedy. So that's why, when you look at the mansions, ang approach is always, what's conscious and what is past. That is why, what is conscious and what is present. As you grow, your consciousness widens. The higher you go, the wider your consciousness. Second, the higher you go, the more you live in the present. Most people live in the past and some in the future. How many of you are still here? Some of you are already in the future. You are thinking of lunch. And you are praying, when will Father shut up? You are in the future. Some of you are not at lunch. You are thinking of your bed already. See? Contemplatives live in the present. Because the present is the only thing we have. The past is gone. Leave it to God's mercy. The future is not here. Leave it to His providence. The present is all we have. I'll explain to you then how the virtues are the healing that happens. Ang ganda po ng spirituality natin. That is why the more you understand it, my God, how can we live Carmen? It's so beautiful.
Of course.
How so beautiful. How can we give up on Carmen? Knowing that no, not one of us is Carmen. No one person is Carmen. Even all of us, it's bigger than us. It's Teresa, it's John, it's Teresa. Our saints. This afternoon, we will look at that vis-a-vis the four dimensions. Conscious and present. Not the past, the subconscious. Kasi we keep on doing this to the subconscious, kung ano pang lalabas dyan. Okay. So, chapel of the Missionaries of Charity, you will see a very simple altar. It's the cross, and on the side of the cross, two words. I thirst. Any chapel of Mother Teresa's sisters. The cross, and I thirst. After the Mass, he was introduced to Mother Teresa. And Mother Teresa asked him, John, welcome. What do you want me to pray for you? And John Cavanaugh said, Mother, I want certainty. And Mother Teresa looked at him and said, I will not pray for you. And he said, why? And Mother Teresa said, John, you don't need certainty in the spiritual life. What you need is trust. I will not pray that you have certitude. I pray that you learn how to trust. And John said, but Mother, when I look at you, it seems that Jesus is always by your side, telling you what to do. It seems everything is so clear to you. And Mother Teresa laughed and said, John, it was never that way. I just trust. It is not certain. That is second half tool. I ask you, if your tool is still certain, perhaps you are not moving as you should. If you demand certitude before you move, you are not in the second half, for sure. And sometimes the Lord is already inviting you, come on! Move on! No, I want to be sure, Lord, na ikaw. Give me a sign na ikaw. How common? No, we laugh because it's common. Worse, if we tell Him what to do, send me, Lord, a rose. Specify pa, white rose. Sino na ngayon ang Diyos? Specify. Bigyan pa natin ng deadline. Before 9 days is over. Control pag-ihap. It's still the same banana. You know what happens when you improve? When you begin to move towards trust, you will say, Lord, I will not tell you what to do. But please, send me a sign that I will recognize as your guidance, that I should go. Beautiful, di ba? I do not tell God to make it rain or make it shine or send 1 dozen roses. Some people are specific. Send a dozen. What if only one comes? What does that mean? Yes or no? We want a white rose, but what comes is a red rose. Now what is that? It becomes ridiculous. So what do we say, Lord? Now, I know you love me. I trust you. Just send me any sign. But just one request, that I recognize Him. Wow, that's beautiful. That's trust. Lord, bahala ka na. Isa lang na, I will recognize it as your sign to go on. Yeah. See? Because in the first half, it's always a demand for certitude. That's very third mansion. Second mansion, first mansion. Sigurado ha? Sigurado? Sigurado ba? That is why when you look at the Annunciation, oh, that was second half event. Why? Mary did not say, Lord, I'm not worthy. No. Mary did not say, Lord, I'm not ready. Still self. That's why, when in God's goodness, you are asked to do something, do not say, I'm not ready. Because none of us is. None of us. None of us. God saved the community. When the president is elected, she will say, oh, I was groomed for this. Or I was prepared for this. God save us all. No. We always are humble. I'm not ready, Lord. I trust you. Help me to do it well. Anybody who has been chosen for a leadership service never says, oh, I'm ready. What does Mary say? Lord, clarification lang po. Clarification. You see, ang galing. Our Lady was a thinking lady. How can this be? That's the only question you are allowed. How can this be? Knowing me, how can this be? And then, does Gabriel answer Our Lady? No. What does Gabriel say? Oh, the Holy Spirit will come upon you. Totally different. Meaning, when Mary saw it was what God wanted, logic flew out. Reason flew out. Trust came in. Do I say reason is bad? No, please. John of the Cross tells us your reason is a good guide. But some people are too reasonable, too logical, that they do not move to the second half. Masyadong logical. Masyadong utak lahat. So what happens? They miss a lot in the second half. Puro certitude. Kailangan sigurado. Ok siguro. Ang ok? Obsessive compulsive. OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Ok. Ay, ok yan. Ok. Masyadong controlling. Masyadong micromanaging. Naku, every little breath, every little detail, I have to be there. Okay. Questions? So I'm beginning to see, we're beginning to see that there is a difference. Now, another thing that we can see between the first half and the second half, in the second half of life, we move to living tensions. Not getting rid of them. We move to living polarities in a creative way. What do I mean? As you grow in perfection, you grow also in a deep awareness of your imperfection. Magkakasama yan. As you grow more towards the light, the image I gave this morning, you see more of your imperfections. It goes together. That is attention. Therefore, as you grow in the mystical life, I do not want to get rid of tensions because they are the stuff of mysticism. You hold in yourself imperfection, deep iniquity, and perfection, integration. I'm not talking about freedom to commit sin. What I'm saying is, imperfection is the weeds of our life. None of our fields are all wheat. We all have weeds. This is the difference of the fifth mansion mechanism and the second. In the second mansions, I want to get rid of the weeds. In the fifth mansion, I am struggling to put them together. I have accepted it is something I have to live with. Remember, in the second mansion, kasi container pa siya, I get rid of everything that doesn't look good. Para maganda naman ang dating. Kahit nasa sarili ko. I want to look good. Not bad, but it becomes obsessive. Okay. I made a column here. I told already Father Richard to have it photocopied so that you can, I will give one to each group. So, another thing we can see is, here it is certitude. Sigurado, sigurado. I want order. Demand for order. Now, a demand for order is to make it disorderly. Because some things are so disordered the way they are. Some things are beyond our control. Now, some people want everything under control, and they try so hard to put everything under control that the more it gets out of control. So here, order at any cost. That's very first half. Now, when you are young, you need some order. Don't get me wrong. When you're a teenager, you need some order. When you're a teenager, you need some certitude. When you're a teenager, you need some kind of direction. But when you get into the second half, you begin to see some things in life I have to live with. Some realities in my family I have to accept. Some realities in my community I have just to accept. No? You know, when you are with the order, the friars, I can talk about the friars. The more you live in the order, the more you fall in love with her. But the more you fall in love with her, the more you get to know many of your relatives. And the relatives of your wife, my wife is the order, no? My wife is the order, I got married to her. Little did I know that she has many relatives who are queer. Little did I know that she has many relatives who are hard to take. But because I like my wife, never mind the relatives, I'm with her. It's like getting married to the order. It's like you who are married. No? May kapatid pala yun na walang iya. Asawa ko mahal na mahal, pero may in-law ako na bad bread. For example, many things. I learned to be more accepting in the second half. First half, demand to change. Kailangan I change. Revolutionary type. That's why, matanda na, napaka-demanding pa. Ay, ano ba yan? Hindi nag-evolve. So that's why, many times, we can say, when the Lord is inviting us, we will be able to gauge, we will be able to see. So, here, you will be able to say, as you live in the second half, I hold both light and dark sides in me in creative tension. I accept. There are dark sides of me. There are light sides of me. I don't get rid of one. Lord, help me to hold them together within me creatively. That is why, my dear friends, you want to be mystics, you have to dance with tension. If you don't want tension, don't be a mystic. You become a mistake. You try to get rid of tension, you become a mistake. But you learn to take it. And remember, the tension will not kill you. It was not meant to do that. It was meant to keep you always on your toes. Kita mo ang karesep ng Carmen? We are tension specialists. Name all the tensions, you will find them. Kaya nga, kung hindi ka sanay sa tension, huwag ka na sa Carmen. You better get used to it. And you better get at home with it. It's the way to mystical life. Sorry, no other way. Because as you go to the second half, this is what we call integration. Nag-integrate na siya. They come together. I know, by the way you look at me, many of you understand what I'm talking about.
Can you give an example of how you accept the light and darkness in a creative way?
In the creative way. 2 or 3 of them in one community, Even if the others seem to be in the first half, the community survives because there are mistakes in it. I say the same thing also about families. If there is one or two in the family who is faithful to that inner journey, that family will survive. No matter how dysfunctional it might seem to be. Things are kept together. When God does His work, it's none of our business. He will do His work. In what way? We don't know. How? It's none of our business. That He will do it, that is our business and our concern. That is why, mind, as Holy Mother says in one of the mansions, pay attention to yourself. And stop looking at other people. You pay attention to your journey. I'm not saying you become so close within yourself. No. You do your homework so that you can help others better. Let's not do the homework of another person. And I was saying, because the journey is like your airline ticket. It's non-transferable. Non-transferable yan. So you have to show your ID when you check in. No? So, we cannot journey for another person. No? Okay. So, wow. I have evidence here. I might be chastised for what I said. Now there is proof. Okay. So, so, we were here, the first half and the second half and the first half. So, please remember, these are two major tasks. Both are necessary and one leads to another. We cannot despise the first half or glorify the second half. Both are necessary. We transcend, but we include. Now, here we see then that we ended up by living tensions, contradictions, and paradoxes in our lives. So, here, in the second half of life, we enter what one author calls a second simplicity. A second simplicity means when I learn to hold tensions, I said learn because it's a gift and it is a task. But it is first a gift before it is something to do. You become very simple in the way you see things. Why? The complicatedness of the first half dissolves and you begin to be very clear-sighted about yourself, about people, about human weakness. Things become so clear. This is what you call a second simplicity. Now, a second simplicity. This second simplicity becomes a wonderful way to be able to begin to come home. So, what do we mean by that second simplicity? When we are, let me see, let's get some details. So, as you begin to become more and more mature, you begin to see the bigger picture. And when you begin to see the bigger picture, we begin to stop and we begin to see that much of our anxieties and doubts begin to become less and less. Why? Because we begin to see, as I said in the conference this morning, that everything belongs. When I know that everything belongs, things become simple. Now the author says, after almost 70 years, I am still a mystery to myself. Our youthful demand for certainty is the one that feeds anxiety. If you demand certitude, you will always be worried. You'll always be anxious. So when a person is always worried, it may be because the person is demanding certitude from the world, which you will never get. That is why a person who is chronically worried becomes more worried. It does not become less. So it becomes so bad that the person begins to worry that they are no longer worrying. Now, that is why you will see that in the first half of life, a person is rather naive. Naive. It is a first half of life naivete, which includes a kind of unwillingness to let go and to move on with life. Which is why, in the second half of life, I begin to see that things were simpler than I thought. And so, you will see this in the way I see the world, the way I see myself, the way I understand things. So, you will see that now, simple meaning suffices. And thus, it becomes itself a deeper happiness. Don't you see that we tend to complicate life? It's a very adult thing. We complicate life. Remember what I said to you? We have to recover our beginner's mind. I said that yesterday. And the visual aid that Jesus gives is a child. Now, here in the second half of life, I begin to enjoy looking at life in a simple way. Why? Because problem solving is no longer my preferred mode. Problem solving is first half. Here, I begin to see that not everything that troubles me are problems. You remember what I said to you in the retreat last year? A problem is something with a solution. That is why it is called a problem. If something has no solution, it is not a problem. Remember that. That is from the wisdom of the Buddhists, Zen Buddhists. So, if something has a solution, you call that a problem. Because it would not be a problem if there were no solution. Now, if a reality has no solution, therefore it is not a problem. What it is then? It is a given. It is something you have to learn to love. It is something beyond your control. That is why part of second half is you begin to have an internal compass to say, hindi problema yan, tanggapin mo yan. Kasi kung problema, may solusyon. In other words, kung may solusyon, by all means, get the solution. By all means, look for a solution. But then you discover that most of life have no solutions. So what do I do? Bang my head against the wall? No. Say, given pa life. And there are many givens in our communities. There are many givens in the order. There are many givens among the friars, among the nuns, in your families, in my family. Now, how do you know there are no solutions? No matter what you do, it's there. No matter how many novenas you pray, it's there. How many candles you light, how many pilgrimages you make, how many saints you call. Even those who are not saints, you call. Now, still no result. Well, it's not a problem. It's a given. Problem solving is the mode of the first half. You know why? Control. I want to control the situation. It is not bad, mind you, when you are younger. But when you become more and more mature, chronologically as well, and we are still in problem-solving mode, nakakapagod, and you will look your age. That is why some people are older, but they look fabulous. Why?
Because there is a holy spaciousness in them. There is a holy spaciousness in them. Hindi masyado masikip. They hang on life spaciously. They leave room. There are spaces in between. Kaya nga, blooming sila at any age. Dala-dala nila, mabigat. And then you will say, "Hoy, kari mo talaga." Wow.
Carry mo
That is why Ting Mercado of the New Minstrels in our parish, when he sees somebody really looking glum and sad, he will say, "Huwag mo naman karirin yan." Kari mo. No? Well, why? Kasi in the first half, kinakarir nila ang problema. They become doctorate degree holders in problems. They like to specialize on it. On the second half, hindi na nila kinakarir. Kari na nila. Spacious na sila. That is why contemplation is living space. When you live space. Do not put anything too close to your ego. Leave a space. Because if everything is too close to the ego, you will react left and right. Because when it is attacked, masyadong malapit sa ego, defensive tayo. Then you react. So, when you contemplate, you leave spaces. So you see, in the second half of life, a person leaves spaces. Meaning, you will see that the person begins to see things in another way. And the person learns how not to make a career out of their difficulties and their problems. Kinakareer nila. Why? Nasa sentro ng kanilang consciousness. Ang kanilang hurt, ang kanilang fears, ang kanilang worries, ang kanilang problema. No? So, that is why here, in the first half of life, most are defensive. Defensive because there are so many things to protect. In the second half of life, one begins to hold things more spaciously. The person begins to handle things less in a grasping way. So, that is why when a person is in the first half of life, they have to win every argument. And that is why, here in my notes, I put it many times, courthouses and civil cases are good and necessary, but they are first half institutions. So when a person is in the mode of suing people left and right, I'm not saying that we should not sue some people. But what I'm saying is, some people make it their hobby of suing. I know a lady who does that a lot. They seem to take pleasure in suing people. No? Now, these people are, we could see that, are in the first half of trying to take control. Because in the second half of life, I work for change, but I do it through persuasion. I do it quietly. I do it behind the scenes. Suabe ka. First half, keha, left and right. No? So this is why they say courthouses are first half institutions. So, here we begin to see them. Here we see, because in the first half of life, there are the 7 C's of the ego. C, letter C. Comparing, competing, conflicting, conspiring, condemning, canceling contrary evidence, and the last, crucifying. That is called the 7 C's of delusion, the 7 C's of the ego. Those are the 7 C's of the first half of life. Even those who have entered the mansions are capable of doing it. Yes? For comparing, competing, conflicting, conspiring. So So scheming, condemning, canceling out contrary evidence. So if something does not support my stand, I do everything to cancel out contrary evidence. And then the last, crucifying. So what happens here? This is a sign. This is even seen in those in the third mansions. Masyadong deluded madalas, no? So, here, I am saying, when you are a teenager, this is good to get you started. Most teenagers can be like this. It's good when you are young. Now, as you grow older, you begin to see that in many real-life situations, this does not work. If you end up comparing and competing, you will be the most insecure person. You're never satisfied who you are. You keep on looking at other people, you keep on comparing and competing. When you conflict and you conspire and you condemn, you will be left with no friends. And then you cancel out contrary evidence, and then you crucify with impunity, as they say. No? So, here you begin to see that when one begins, it is sad to see when a person is older. A person who is supposed to be at a certain phase of life, more in the persuasive mode, more quiet in getting change done. Because these people usually get change the way they want it through the 7 C's of delusion. So, here, we begin to see that we move on, as I said, we feel a spaciousness and a sense of infinity, not out there, but especially in here. Para bang lumalawak ang aking horizon. Para bang I feel a spaciousness within my heart. I feel that I am expanding. Holy Mother calls this the expansion of the heart, not the enlarged heart, but the expansion of the heart in the 4th mansion, Divitas Cormeo, as they put it in the Psalms. Something in me feels so vast, and you feel so big inside. This is what I mean by a holy spaciousness. What does this mean? I am no longer opinionated. You know, we have our opinions and we have our strong opinions about certain people. Now, strong opinions are for first half. Second half, you still have your opinions, but you hold them lightly. You hold them lightly. No big deal. Especially politics and religion. These are opinions that are very sensitive. Even in families, especially in families, politics and religion can divide the best of families and can divide the best of friendships. No? So, I carry my opinions lightly. This is very much a mystical tool. When you see this happening, then you know something beautiful is happening. You carry your opinions lightly. No? Nag-mellow na siya, as we say it. No? Mellow na siya. So, here, I begin to say, my concern is not so much here, my concern is to have what I love. Follow me? Here in the first half, my concern is to have what I love. I need to have it. Here, in the second, I begin to love what I love. Banan. Here, I have to have what I love. Here, contentment na. I love whatever I have. Tama na to. If you are beginning to see that contentment, I think that is a good sign. Dati, basta gusto, kailangan, I can get it. Nasa akin yan. Now, kung ano nasa akin, okay na yan. That is why I see this detachment happening in many OCDS I know. They begin to see, as they move on in their interior journey, mas simple na sila.
They are no longer concerned about getting this or getting that or going here or going there. Kanila? No. What is enough. Wow. That is a mantra that you should have. For what is, I am grateful. And for what is enough. That is second half. Imagine if you wake up every morning and you say, for what is, not for what will be, not for what was, for what is enough. Then you say, for what is, I am grateful. Gratefulness and contentment are beautiful mantras you can have. Because many times, when a person is in the first half, naku, kailangan akin yan. Tao man o bagay, ha? Kailangan akin yan. I have to have it because I love it. No, here, I begin to love what I have. Tama na yan. So when you see more needs multiplying, I feel very sad when I see older people and having their needs multiplying. I say, wow, it's supposed, ano yata to, na-inverted. As we grow older, the needs decrease. I'm happy with what I have. I don't have to have this or that. I don't make demands. So, here, that is why you will see then that you have to allow the process and you have to trust the process. Now, you will say, so Father, how is the movement from the first to the second half? What is the movement from the ascetical mansions 1, 2, and 3, to the mystical mansions of 4, 5, 6, and 7? The movement, to use the words of Carl Jung, is shadow work. And healthy, self-critical thinking. Those two. Now, when I say shadow work, it becomes
Soul work. Shadow work, why is it called a shadow? When there is a shadow, that means light is nearby. Hindi po ba? So nagkakahalo-halo ang dilim at ang liwanag, kaya nga may shadow, kasi malapit ang ilaw. So, when a shadow is present, do not fear. It means light is nearby. Now, what is the shadow according to you? The shadow is that part of me that I do not like. That part of me that I do not accept. The part of me I do not want to show to others kasi nakakahiya. The part of me I do not want others to know. Bakit po shadow work? Because the shadow here in the first half is very large. The aim of the spiritual life is that consciousness begins to become bigger, wider. The aim of the spiritual life is that the shadow begins to decrease. Kung napakalaki po ng shadow, delikado. Why? The shadow is not bad. Those are the weeds of our life. How does it become bad? When you do not accept it. And worse, when you deny it. Kaya nga, yung weeds natin, yung shadow natin, if you do not accept it, it becomes larger. Kaya nga, we begin to do things that we never thought we could do. Kasi hindi inamin na part ko yan. Kaya ko yan gawin. Worse, if I deny I am not that. So when some people are very angry, for example, and then they deny, I'm not an angry person. I'm not an angry person. The shadow comes out. But you walk angry, sir. Yan. Even the way they walk, they are angry. So you begin to see, wow, the person is denying that that is part of you. Is being an angry person bad? No. Denying it is. Because then it has more power over you. Or worse, also, not accepting it as part of you is. So when you do not accept that that's part of you, worse, when you deny it and repress it, it becomes worse. Now I give you an example. When a person has not done his homework in the first half of life, part of it is sexuality. Raging hormones. You have a young priest, newly ordained, full of ideals, and so he has been trained in the seminary to be careful about women. He has been trained in the seminary not to look at women in the eye. To make sure that a woman does not ride with him in the car. Believe me, it happens. Some people are so obsessed with that kind of mentality. Therefore, no women in the convento. No women in this, no women is that. Okay, so he grows up, he grows older, he represses all that feelings, he represses all that. Does not accept that for God's sake, he is also a man. And that he also is flesh and blood. Now, this is a case and it happens. Habang siyang tumatanda, lalong-lalo na kung nakahiga na siya, sa old priest home, ang dumi-dumi ng bumama, lumalabas na ang nilipress. Yung mga nurse, he ends up touching, have mga imprudent touches. He cannot control himself anymore. See what happens. Why? Because when I was younger, I haven't consciously accepted I have this too. I have these attractions. So it comes out with a vengeance. What we have repressed when we were younger, what we have not accepted as part of us, will come back and make, kasing Ilonggo, make sokot, will demand now the payment. That is why some people, this priest in fact, is a case in fact, that the priest becomes very, very imprudent, to say it kindly, in words and in actions, touching the caregivers at the wrong places, and cursing and foul language. And when he was young, he was the model of virtue. Oh! The spirit of fornication. Fornication, not only in the sexual sense, but fornication in the sense that it refers to idolatry. When you are praying, anything that you have made idols will show its face. Anything, anyone, any reality that you have idolized, ginawa mong idol, Diyos will show itself. And John says, do not be surprised when that spirit comes during the night. The spirit comes, it comes to your consciousness. So whatever it is fame, or it is money, or it is sexuality, sex, or it is popularity, whatever it is, comes. The second, the spirit of blasphemy. Because when the ego begins to show itself, minsan makapagmura ka eh. Even in your own heart, you will say, my God, what is this? Is this me? I can't believe this is me. This is the spirit of blasphemy. I blaspheme. No, I curse God. No. The third is spiritus vertiginis. This is taken from the prophet Isaiah. Vertiginis means nahihilo. It's the spirit of confusion. Now, confusion because there in the night, you will see that everything is obscure. Now, when you are dealt with this, the ego, the shadow comes up. That's the shadow showing itself. Kaya nga, huwag tayong magulat that not all prayer time will be consoling. In fact, there are some times of prayer that can be particularly trying, particularly disturbing. And it is the silence that facilitates. Kaya nga, madalas we are distracted at home with music, with going out, and with doing this, and with doing that. When many times the call of the moment, please be faithful to your prayer time. For the OCDS, you have 30 minutes a day. How you schedule that, that's your creativity. But we have that time. Kami 2 hours. 2 hours of bakbakan. 1 hour in the morning and another hour in the evening. And that is the time of wrestling. You feel like Jacob wrestling with the angel. Now, many times it will not feel good. But strangely, you feel light. So these are the two things, no? When you look at the halves of life. So here you will begin to see then this is the inner work that I have to do. But in those who have refused to do this, there will be a cumulative closing down for all who have denied shadow work and humiliating self-knowledge when they work more healthy. Mag-break down ang mechanism. And that is why you find some people who, during their last days, can become very miserable, very negative, very defensive, and you will find that it is because they have not been doing that all their life, the interior journey. So, mag-close down, and then it becomes problematic. Questions? Any clarifications? Nora?
Father, is it a given that everyone?
Why? Because you will see that as your world expands, you will be experiencing different things. One, as you move and grow in the interior life, your circle of real friends, diminishes. You follow? Your circle of friends diminishes. What do I mean? There will be fewer people who will understand you. And there will be fewer closer friends whom you will call real confidants. Therefore, when you are young, we boast about how many Facebook friends we have. Not only those who are young, those who are a little older. Also boast, ako, daming FB friends ko. No? Now, that's fine. I'm not against Facebook also. What I'm saying is, when you become more and more faithful to your mystical vocation, you will have fewer friends. Why? Fewer people will understand you. Therefore, you will have fewer but more intimate friends. Treasure them. More intimate because they will not be too many. When God sends you one or two, these will become your soul friends. Before it was numbers. Before it was quantity. Now it is depth. Now it is a matter of quality. Thank you. Matter of quality. No? So, new problems. That's a problem. In a good sense. New directions. So because my world expands, then I begin to see fewer people really understand. You have many acquaintances, but people I can come home to less. Blessed are you if you have one in your community. Blessed are you if you have one in the order. Blessed are you if you have one close friend like that. You are really blessed. So don't expect a whole horde of them. They will be fewer. To Teresa, Gracian, had fever. Many times, without them, no. But if you can come home to them, treasure that person. Soul friend mo yan. And usually, you attract a person in your phase of spiritual life. You recognize a person. Wala kang sinasabi, but you recognize the person. Water speaks its own language. Even mystical water. Questions? New problems. So, what do I mean? It will be lonely. It will be lonely. Meaning, you will discover that most groups are doing first half of life things. Most groups, even institutions, will be doing first half of life things, and you will discover that they are dealing still with ego needs, not with soul needs. You might even feel you are out of place. Doesn't matter. But please watch this. You will not hate them because they are first half. You will be compassionate. You will not hate them. You will not say they are less. You will not think they are the slow folks. No. You will be compassionate. Yes, please.
I was just wondering, when you say you have less friends as you become more mature, what happens to a John Paul? What happens to Teresa of Calcutta? They attract hordes of people.
Oh, yes, yes. Yes. Well, but those hordes are friends in the gospel sense. When I talk about friends, it is in the sense of Saint Teresa. You know, a friend is someone you can talk to, someone you can listen, someone you can be yourself and not be judged. Someone you can journey with, someone who can mirror. Kasi one of the gifts of a friend, a good friend, is they mirror you. And you can check because I can see myself and they say, no, watch out for this. Tama na yan. Kulikot na ng kulikot. Pag sabihan ka, tama na yan. You let go of that. That's doing it hard. That's a good friend. But the attraction that Mother Teresa and Pope John Paul do is when it's because also of their holiness, no? Later we'll go on to that. Nakakaakit kasi ang taong banal eh. When I say banal, I'm not talking about pious, ha? Banal, buo, holy siya. Nakakaakit ng taong yan. And you notice, you want to be around people who are whole. Bakit po? Nakakahawa. You are just close, you just rub shoulders a little bit with the person who is old, you catch it. Mahul ka din. Now, magbantay po tayo. Kung dysfunctional siya, nakakahawa din yan. So, sige, tabi ka pa ng tabi na dysfunctional. Para kayo amoeba, dadami kayo. Mag-mitosis. Mag-multiply. Hindi po, it's not arithmetic, it's not addition, it's multiplication. Grabe pagdami. Grabe pagdami. That's why, if you have only one in the group who has been faithful to the journey, mahirap-hirap. But usually God gives you a friend, either in the group or outside the group to help you. That's why. It will be lonely. Because as you move towards the mystical mansions, you will begin to see that most people, as I said, most groups are doing first half of life tasks. And so, you will see that they are so practical, so reasonable, so logical, so controlling, to a fault. You see it? Because I told you, your eyes are open. You see it, but you do not condemn it. No. Kasi when you do, that's a bit real, you're not there. There. Compassion eh. Now, here is what we do. So then, Here, you are dealing with soul wisdom. Now, when you have soul wisdom, it will be lonely. Lonely because you will have to ask the question, because none of you are hermits. None of you are monjas. None of you are people who live alone. So the question will be, how can I honor the legitimate needs of the first half of life? May mga legitimate needs to eh. While creating space, time, grace for the second half. This will be, I think, the challenge of many of us. Look, you have families, you have businesses to mind, you have to earn a living, you have to support your children, you have to send some to school, you have your own livelihood. Those are, I have to take care of first half of life concerns. That's valid. But how can I do this without neglecting this? If you are retired, you can do all this. No. When you are a hermit or a monja, you can do all this. But believe me, not all monjas are doing this. Neither us. No? So, here we begin to see, when I see that my group, my community, is so first half, even most of my companions are so first half, what do I do? Lord, help me to allow, help me to bless, and even sometimes help me to encourage or challenge them in a very quiet and persuasive way. Do not bring them to court. So, but you notice one thing, the tools here do not work for you anymore. The tools of the second half. So, I belong to an institution. Do not give up on the institution just because you are second half. You want to change government? You do it from inside. Don't do it from outside. Let's not be cowards. We see what is wrong. We see what is lacking. It's easy to criticize government from outside. You are Catholic. We see what is wrong. We see what is scandalously wrong. It's easy to criticize the church from outside. You want change? Let's do it from inside. Inside the church, inside government. Duwag tayo. Kung lalabas tayo at sige, tira ng tira. Madali yan. But to remain in the institution, despite its first half concerns, napaka-egoistic, well, you remain there.